Southern Voices presents Mrs. Darcy and the Blue-Eyed Stranger, new and selected stories by Lee Smith, narrated by actors from the Recorded Books Repertory Company. And now, the first story in this collection, Bob, a Dog, narrated by Debra Monk.
It was early May, 2 days after his 39th birthday, when David left her forever. Forever, that's what he said. He stood in the downstairs hallway, turning an old brown hat around and around in his hands. Cheryl had never seen the hat before. She stood on the stairs above him, coming down carrying towels. David said he needed a different life. Behind him, the door was wide open. It was sunny and windy outside. She had made him a carrot cake for his birthday, she was thinking. Now what would she do with the rest? Nobody liked carrot cake except David and Angela, who was dieting. Angela was always dieting. David continued to talk in his calm, clipped way, but it was hard to hear what he said. He sounded like background noise, like somebody on the TV that Cheryl's mother kept going all the time in the TV room, now since she had retired from her job at the liquor store. David wore cut-off jeans and an old plaid shirt he'd had ever since she'd met him, nearly 20 years before. She must have washed that shirt 100 times, 200 times. His knees were thin and square. He was losing his hair. At his back, the yard was a blaze of sun. Cheryl could remember the first time she ever saw him like it was yesterday. David standing so stiff and straight in the next-to-back pew of the Methodist church, wearing a navy blue suit, and everybody whispering about him and wondering who he was. Him so prim and neat it never occurred to any of them he might be from the Peace Corps, which he was. He didn't look like a northern hippie at all. He was real neat. Cheryl and her sister, Lisa, and her brother, Tom, were sitting right behind him, and after a while of looking at the careful part in his hair and his shoulder blades like wings beneath his navy suit, Cheryl leaned forward and gave him her program so he would know what was going on. He acted like somebody who had never been in a church before, which turned out to be almost true, while Cheryl's own family was there, of course, every time they cracked the door. But oh, it seemed like yesterday. He was dignified, and he sat so straight. He might have been a statue in a navy blue suit, a figurine like all those in Mamaw's collection. Cheryl had sucked in her breath and bitten her lip and thought, before she fell head over heels in love right then, that she ought to be careful, because she had always been the kind of big, bouncy girl who jumps right in and breaks things without ever meaning to. A generous, sweet, well-meaning girl who was the apple of everybody's eye. Cheryl handed him the program and touched his hand too long. After the recessional, she took him into the fellowship hall for a cup of Kool-Aid and wrote her telephone number down on a paper napkin before he even asked for it. "He's just my type," she said to her mother, Netta, later. "Ha!" Netta said. Netta thought he looked nervous. But Cheryl liked that about him, because everybody else she knew was exactly like their parents were, exactly like everyone else. David was older, a college graduate. Cheryl, who had finished high school 2 years before, was working then at Fabric World. She thought David was like a young man in a book or a movie. Whatever he said seemed important, as if it had been written down and he was reading it aloud. Later, when she got to know him, she'd go to the room that he rented over Mrs. Bailey's garage and lied with him on the mattress on the floor where he slept. The mattress pulled over to the window where you could look right out on Thompson's Esso and the back road and the river winding by. And sometimes afterward, she'd open her eyes to find him looking out this window, over the river, and she couldn't tell what he was thinking. She never knew what he thought. Then, Cheryl found this romantic. But probably she should have gotten herself a big old man who could stand up to things. Not that she didn't have offers. Look at Jerry Jarvis, who had always loved her, or Kenny Perdue, who she was dating at the time.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?